You're watching News 19 Saturday Morning.
Good morning and welcome to News 19 Saturday Morning. I'm Chuck Ringwald. Puerto Rico is not the only U.S. territory wrecked by hurricanes. People in the Virgin Islands are also trying to recover, and the Midlands is helping out. News 19's Lana Harris tells us more about the efforts to bring in hospital patients from St. Croix. Lana.
Yeah, Chuck, it's been a busy week at the Columbia Metropolitan Airport. The Division of Aeronautics hangar has been prepped to receive patients from the Caribbean all week. Since they started this effort this past Sunday, we've had 17 people come in from the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. Last night, information officers at the hangar told us this was the largest plane they've had come in so far. This plane carried 14 passengers. 8 will come here to South Carolina, and the other 6 will go on to Atlanta. FCC Coordinator Carlton Bailiff tells us a little more about them.
We received an aircraft load of patients, not a complete full aircraft, but about 5 patients that were DoD service members. They were ambulatory, and therefore they were able to walk off the aircraft under their own power, so we didn't need to transport them. As well, they were able to walk on their own power to the ambulance, which took them onto a DoD facility.
Now, what I thought was really interesting was that it took a long time to get those passengers off of that plane. And we found out that was because of U.S. Customs. They were able to get that process done right from the plane. One of the information officers at the hangar told us that was because there may have been infrastructure damage at St. Croix, so the U.S. Customs process couldn't be done from there. But we'll talk more about that process later. Chuck.
All right, thank you, Lana. And people right here in the Midlands are reaching out to lend a helping hand. Today, the South Carolina Hispanic Leadership Council will be collecting donations at La Isla Bonita on Percival Road. They're working with the Puerto Rican Cultural Society of Charlotte to send the supplies to Puerto Rico. The group recently used a private plane to transport supplies donated throughout the Charlotte area. Some of the items they're asking for include water, canned goods, and cots. And you can find a full list of items on our WLTX app. Now, Daniel, I hope they have good weather for everybody collecting all those supplies today.
Yeah, the weather should be perfect this weekend for us here in the Midlands, but we're still talking about what was Hurricane Maria and what was Hurricane Lee. Now, Lee is a post-tropical storm and Maria is a tropical storm. And you can kind of see them here. That's Maria right there. It's hard to kind of tell the center of circulation for that storm. And here is Lee. It's hard to really tell what's going on with Lee. And here's the forecast for those two systems. They're in the middle of the Atlantic, so they're going to continue to move on out towards the north and east. But Lee does have winds of 50 miles per hour moving towards the northeast at 51 miles per hour. And there is what is now Tropical Storm Maria moving towards the east-northeast at about 32 miles per hour, still has winds of 60 miles per hour. So as these storms move on out, we'll shift our focus to a couple of other areas in the tropics. Small chance for these to develop, but something we'll be watching. This little wave here coming off of Puerto Rico is expected to move just north of Cuba. It may develop, small chance as we mentioned, and we're watching this little area over Florida, see if that develops as well. So a couple areas we'll be watching, but overall pretty quiet in the tropics as of right now. We still do have 2 months until hurricane season is officially over on November 30th. We did see a few showers early this morning. They moved on out. The clouds are starting to move out as well. Temperatures are starting to warm up. 75 degrees right now in Columbia, 76 degrees Sumter, 77 degrees in Orangeburg, 78 degrees in Charleston. But all across the Palmetto State, we're generally in the 70s this morning. As we mentioned, we did have a few showers roll through the area earlier this morning. Our satellite radar composite over the last 12 hours confirms what we saw. You can kind of see this line of showers move on through. As we mentioned, most of those are all gone, and now we've left with some clouds. Those clouds are going to move on out later today, so we are expecting mostly sunny conditions during the afternoon hours, and some cooler air is going to be moving in as well. We'll put our forecast in motion for you. Pick things up at 11:30 this morning. As we mentioned, the clouds continue to move on out, so mostly sunny skies later today. No issues whatsoever. Clear skies tonight and temperatures will be dropping. And then looking ahead towards Sunday afternoon, a lot of sunshine. We may have a little bit more cloud cover move in on Monday. Not expecting any rain, but we'll call it partly cloudy conditions on Monday. We're still expecting dry weather over the next several days. As far as today is concerned, temperatures climbing up into the lower 80s, so about where we would expect to be for this time of the year. 81 degrees in Bishopville, Newberry, 83 degrees in the capital city, 83 degrees in Orangeburg and in Manning as well. And as we mentioned, temperatures are going to be a little bit on the cool side tonight, dropping into the middle 50s. 55 degrees, Columbia, Sumter, 56 degrees in Manning, 54 degrees in Bishopville, Camden, Newberry, and Saluda, 55 degrees as we mentioned in Winsboro as well. So a cool start to our Sunday. This is what we're expecting for the next 7 days. High temperatures only around 77 degrees for the second half of the weekend, 79 degrees on Monday. Gradually, we warm back up into the lower 80s Tuesday into Wednesday. 83 degrees are high. Still mostly sunny conditions Thursday into Friday, but high temperatures continue to climb into the middle 80s, it looks like, by the end of the work week. As you can tell from our 7-day forecast, not expecting any rain, so it is going to be a dry next 7 days. Chuck?
All right, thank you, Daniel. Looking forward to some of those cooler temperatures. Well, it's been 2 weeks since 8 people were shot in Columbia's Vista, and today we have more information on one of those victims. A 25-year-old father has been paralyzed after a stray bullet hit his spine. Family members say he's in constant pain, can't stand on his own, and is relearning how to walk. The victim's aunt says this situation has been a nightmare.
I have one son and 2 daughters, and I'm telling you, as a mother, for you to get a phone call to say that your child has been shot and you don't know if they are alive or if they're dead, and you don't know how serious it is, you don't know what you're going to be facing when you get to the hospital to see them, that is so scary and heartbreaking, and it puts a different type of fear in you.
The family is asking anyone who can give to their GoFundMe page, and we've got all that information on the WLTX app. Another victim in that shooting, Denise Massey, is home in Kentucky this weekend. Denise and her fiance were in Columbia for the Carolina-Kentucky game, but the night before the game, she was shot in the face near the Empire Supper Club. Denise may have to have another surgery as she continues to recover from her gunshot wound. State Attorney General Alan Wilson petitioned the Public Service Commission for permission to participate in a proceeding over SCEG's charging its customers for its failed VC summer project. Costs associated with the abandoned project currently account for 18% of SCEG's customers' bills. The state agency that represents the public interest in utility cases has asked the commission to force SCEG to stop billing customers for their failure. SCEG wants the request dismissed. Wilson says he hasn't formulated his decision on the proceeding, but is sworn to seek to protect the rights of South Carolina citizens, including the utility's 700,000 ratepayers. Santee Cooper, a partner in the failed project, is expected to name an interim CEO. The board met earlier this week to talk about a temporary replacement for Lonnie Carter, but did not take action. Carter announced his impending retirement last month. He's the only executive involved with the failed VC summer projects to leave. Santee Cooper and SCEG abandoned construction back in July after jointly spending nearly $10 billion and charging customers $2 billion in interest fees since 2009. Well, a natural gas pipeline on the East Coast may be expanded into South Carolina. At a clean energy conference, a Dominion Energy executive said, quote, "Everybody knows the project won't end in North Carolina as the plans currently describe. Instead, he said it will expand and could do so into our state. The pipeline could bring almost 1 billion cubic feet of natural gas a day. For now, no decision has been made about expanding the $5 billion project beyond West Virginia, and North Carolina. And if you live in West Columbia, you may still be under a boil water advisory. If you live on Clapman Road, Professional Avenue, Corporate Boulevard, or Chris Drive, you're asked to boil your water for at least 1 minute before drinking it or using it to cook. This comes after repairs to the water line, and there's no timetable as to when it will be over, but we will keep you updated on air and online. Well, after being caught spending thousands of tax dollars on private flights, Tom Price has been let go as the Trump administration's Health and Human Services Secretary. Errol Barnett brings us the latest on the ongoing investigation from New Jersey.
Good morning. In a letter released last night, President Trump's budget director sent a warning to all agency heads. Be cautious of how you spend hard-earned taxpayer dollars and seek Chief of Staff John Kelly's approval for any government-chartered aircraft. The last thing President Trump wants to be associated with is wasteful spending.
I was disappointed because I didn't like it, cosmetically or otherwise.
President Trump had harsh words for Tom Price Friday afternoon, commentary that was followed by this letter in which the Health and Human Services Secretary stood down. In order for you to move forward without further disruption, he wrote, I am officially tendering my resignation.
I've heard the concerns, I've heard the criticisms.
Price, a former Georgia congressman, had tried in vain to end the growing controversy around his chartered travel, offering to reimburse the government nearly $52,000, a fraction of more than $400,000 he spent on at least a dozen private flights since May. An unwelcome fact as the president tries to promote a new tax plan.
Well, that's unacceptable to me.
Price was already on shaky grounds with President Trump. He was the administration official responsible for overseeing the GOP's repeal and replace attempts, which failed repeatedly.
By the way, you going to get the votes? He better get them. Otherwise, I'll say, Tom, you're fired.
And Price isn't the only cabinet member under scrutiny for wasteful travel. According to information obtained by CBS News, EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt has spent nearly $60,000 on non-commercial travel since February, when cheaper alternatives were available. Also under fire, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin and Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke, who tried to defend himself.
Every time I travel, I submit the travel plan to the ethics department that evaluates it line by line.
Now, Tom Price is the 9th White House official to either step down or be fired, but he is the first cabinet member to do so. Deputy Assistant Secretary for Health Don Wright becomes acting secretary for HHS until a replacement is chosen.
Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is in China today talking trade with the Chinese government. The talks will extend throughout the weekend. Secretary Tillerson did speak with President Xi Jinping. This all comes ahead of President Trump's visit that is set for November, which will be the second encounter between the two leaders. Well, happening today over in Irmo was the Okra Strut. It started at 9 and is wrapping up right about now, and this marks the 44th year of the festival. There were musical guests, drinks, and food, and this is the second day of the event, and part of the celebration went on last night. And on Sunday in 5 Points, people will be jamming out at Jerry Fest. The festival looks to celebrate the life of Grateful Dead guitarist and singer Jerry Garcia. There will be food, art, and of course, live music. Admission is free and open to people and their pets. The live music kicks off at 2 and will keep rocking until about 10 o'clock. Still to come on News 19, Saturdays in South Carolina are filled with tailgating traditions. When we come back, we take you inside some Midlands tailgates. Plus, we'll also have a recap of last night's most explosive high school football plays as sports director Reggie Anderson talks blitz. And later, meteorologist Daniel Bonds is back with another look at what we can expect this weekend in the forecast. Stay tuned. We'll be back in 2 minutes.